Shahula Ismail. She is the director of the Electoral Management Division at the Election Commission of Maldives. With over 14 years of experience in electoral governance, since 2019, she has overseen the electoral management and civic education sections, coordinating the planning, organization, and delivery of all elections. She has led voter education, election coordination, procurement, administration, training, and research, developing extensive operational expertise. A semi-accredited bridge trainer, she has undertaken international training with UNDP, IFES, IDEA, and the Election Commission of India. So introduce another panelist from the same league, Mr. IIDEM Holik is the Commissioner of General Elections Commission KPU of Indonesia and the head of the Electoral Technical Division. His career in election administration spans regency, provincial, and national levels, including roles as Commissioner of the West Java Provincial KPU and Chair of Bekasi Regency KPU. He holds a doctorate in communication science from the University of Indonesia. Actively involved in social and youth organizations, IIDEM combines scholarly expertise and practical experience to strengthen electoral governance and enhance public trust in Indonesia. To introduce another member of the panel, Professor Shyam Narayan Lal is a distinguished figure at IIM Jammu, holding positions like chairperson of Andaman, the Center for Happiness, Anandam, the Center for Happiness, and a professor actively involved in the Institute's cultural and academic life. He recently delivered the vote of thanks at an international painters symposium. He serves as a key faculty member, linking IIM Jammu with broader initiatives in art and culture, and has a background in the history from Jammu University. We have another member in the panel, Mr. Anil Salgotra, Joint CEO, Jammu Kashmir. Mr. Salgotra, BTech, Electronics and Communication, and gold medalist in International Electoral Management and Practices, has extensive experience across corporate, academic, and administrative sectors. He began in corporate roles with ABB and VAI, then lectured at Government College of Engineering and Technology, Jammu, and served as development engineer at the University of Jammu. Since 2004, he has held key positions in Jammu and Kashmir Administrative Services, including Deputy Secretary, Higher Education, and OSD to ministers as Deputy and Joint Chief Electoral Officer. He has overseen 11 elections, electoral roll management, delimitation exercises, and serves as a national level master trainer for IIIDEM. We have another panelist, luckily who is a female, and the member whom I can assure, Miss Mrinalini Sawant. She is an additional collector and associate professor at Yashoda, Pune, a state civil service officer of 2002 batch, Government of Maharashtra. She holds academic qualification in science, management, urban management, biomedical techniques, and has recently completed a master's in international election management. Her administrative experience includes posting as deputy collector and deputy district election officer. We have another panelist, Dr. Mool Raj Sharma. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science at the University of Jammu with 8 years of teaching experience. He holds an MPhil and PhD with doctoral research on changing dynamics of federalism in India since the 1990s, issues and challenges. His areas of specialization include Indian politics, federalism, and state politics. He has also taught Indian polity at IIM Jammu and has published research in internationally reputed journals, including Scopus indexed Sage journals with additional work under review. Now, as I have introduced the entire panel, for the same, now I'd like to invite our CEO, sir, to kindly proceed further the sessions.
Thanks a lot, and very good evening to all of you. Uh, Actually, it's a matter of extreme privilege and pride for me. Say in all conferences, but I mean it. This has been an international conference, and it's my very fortunate to come across so many distinguished uh, luminaries and with the excellencies from Indonesia. I never felt I'm out of home. I'm feeling I'm conversing with my own people and the seniors. So uh, today's uh, first of all, as you've given a very elaborate uh, presentation on the introduction, I must say, and that's beautifully worded. Uh, uh, Excellency Idal Holik Saab. Uh, then we have a friend and a senior colleague from Maldives. I think uh, Anil was very comfortable when he quoted. I'll make a contact very easily. So Shaula Ismail, Madam Shaula Ismail, who is a director and already introduced. Uh, we have again very distinguished professor in the IIMs, and he has a rich and long experience of history and allied subjects, including the human behavior. Uh, Professor Dr. Sham Narayanji. Uh, we have Mr. Salgotra, who is a joint CEO, and he's part of the team at the Election Commission, I must say, and in GNK also. I put it like this. We have Advocate Danish Bhatt, again a senior legal expert and practicing at high courts and different courts in the UT and outside also. Dr. Moolraj, who is again a professor of political science, University of Jammu. My colleague from election department, Mahatma Devi, our another friend from Indonesia, and all the, especially Minali Savanti, very worried about the presentation. So she has been, catching up from last 2 days, and very studiously she has been chasing us, and we are trying to assist her. Anil has been trying to assist her, and all the very distinguished members who are present here as a audience and observing this session. Uh, this is a matter of extreme pride for my country, India, and Election Commission for hosting this conference. I'm very sure that this is one of and the first of it's made in a conference of this scale and magnitude, which is being held in this spot. And actually, the EMBs are the upholders of the guarantee, which has been enshrined and embedded in the respective constitution. So they play out that guarantee, and then they perform that role. Before the governments come, they are constituted by the people, for the people, of the people. It is this body which is a very sanctified body, and I must say it's something like a demigod for the people, if you visualize from that perspective. So although she quoted the best practice, I personally feel that all the practices are good in every country. We are having vibrant democracies on my this side. Maldives, Indonesia, very vibrant democracies, and all the participants who are coming here as EMBs, they are actually representing very vibrating democracies. But then every place has its own regional, topographical, geographical, social, political challenges. So it's better to observe and learn than to make a mistake and learn. So this is an area where we can pick uh, in an area maybe we are having maybe something we have done better or maybe trying to perfect uh, a area in logistics. So the friends can learn and they will present something which maybe why should we reinvent? We will learn. So collectively, it's a crucible of learning uh, for which we have gathered here. Uh, Today's topic, I mean, you can say it's a penultimate day or ultimate day. For me, it's the ultimate day, the polling day, because it's a confluence and convergence of all the activities right from the inception of declaration of elections, or maybe you are mulling over holding elections somewhere, then you go for a notification by the respective ROs we call as the returning officers, and the terminologies may vary differently in different countries and nations. But the path is one, as all religions lead to one path. The path is one that we are moving towards the polling day. And I think everywhere it is a polling day, which is the D day, and then we have a counting also. In the polling, I mean, it has also evolved. You may ask me why we have evolved over the years, although Anil will give a unfold it and you'll know better. But because we started with the ballot papers and with the rudimentary system, although time tested, but no, we have moved towards the EVMs. This is one innovation, you can say, a new introduction, which become old, but it has been time honored now. It's very well tested now. So this is one area where we must say that we have a lot of, we can say, a lot of satisfaction we draw. Uh, and besides our country, my country, and I think the countries which are uh, present here, the honorable members, they have a right to vote, but it's not enforceable right. They say that it's a by conviction or by persuasion. So we also believe in by conviction and persuasion. So in the presentation, now the new area where the commission, under the overall directions of the commission, which are focusing is how to convince people, how to persuade and make them ease. I will say ease of living. There's so many dogmas which have which get displayed that, and this is also part of ease of making people to come. And to illustrate, uh, recently, I mean, say few years back, like home voting for the elderly, it was unknown when I was a district elector or the district magistrate. But now you go and get the votes casted at the place of. I mean, what more you can expect? I mean, this is something we must we all cherish that. For the disabled, I mean, this is one area again. Uh, we must say that we take pride in that disabled friendly elections, be it wheelchairs. We are trying to take people along and make arrangements, ramps within the resources, but it's a we try to make optimize the resources in a manner that it becomes more inclusive. So our is a multicolor elections. It's more inclusive for all religions, for all social groups, for all types of I must say challenges. I don't say disabilities, but challenges which we face. So I think I've already taken a lot of time. I will request my friend Anil to unfold the things and take to this short journey. Thank you. And after that, our honorable member and other colleagues will also present their case. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir, and good afternoon, all. It's yours.
Yes, sure.
I'll be making a brief, actually, whatever presentation, even that also I'll pass through quickly because we've lost already so much of time. And then we are not going to talk something actually factual about any election because it's not one country presence here. So it's since a global theme and global discussion happening here. So I'll not be putting anything anything like factual data from Indian elections for which we are the election management people. So I'll be bringing out generic things that what all we do on polling day as part of polling day operations and what all we expect. So from then only, then we'll have some country specific presentations from two of our colleagues. and then we can go for some academic point of view from the academia which we have here. So to start with, so polling day operations, as sir has already emphasized on its importance, this is the point where all the preparations will meet our action. So this is the actual action day, the D-Day, when we actually act on whatever we have prepared. And preparations, as you know, in India, in Indian scenario, it starts at least the expected polling days minus 6 months. So we formally start so it's almost 6 months preparations which culminate on this particular day, and you do the action whatever is planned and like preparations you have done. So if you see like the entire electoral cycle, the global electoral cycle, which we accept different kind of phases, 3 phases normally: post-election period, pre-election period, and then electoral period. So within electoral period also, we are actually talking of this part only, the voting part, which we talk of as the day when actual voting happens. So I'll not be doing and talking anything related to all other things. This everything happens prior to this. The pre-election period, if you take the prior 1/3 part of it. So this all has happened before the poll day. We are just concerned about the yellow part which we have done. So but this is not, though it might look a small portion out of the entire cycle, but this defines your perception. This defines how well your elections are perceived and how well your democracy as a result of good elections is perceived. So polling day is basically the heart of any election. And this is the day when the actual essence of democracy, which is your citizens' participation, that gets manifested through the exercise of voting rights. And then the legitimacy and public trust of your entire election mechanism, the election management body, as well as the government which is formed as a result of this election, is all dependent on what you do on the polling day. So poll day operations, though it might look on the timeline to be like a single day or multiple days at times in certain scenarios, but it's one of the most important day in the entire electoral cycle. So directly going to the international standards, what we are supposed to follow. There are no specific, like straight away, you don't get like on polling day, you should do this. But what is expected of a few international organizations, their manifests and all, I've tried to present here, clubbed it here. Like if you see the UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 21, the complete article, we are not concerned. That is about the expression of people to form their opinion and the government. But the third part actually deals with what actually elections should be. And out of that, on poll day, the highlighted part shall be held by secret vote and by equivalent free voting procedure. So this is one of the things which is highlighted as an international standard which we must follow on the day of poll. Another set of international guidelines is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, Article 25, which again gives you what international standard should be there in formation of government through elections. So in that, the clause B says that to vote and to be elected at genuine periodic elections, again shall be held by secret ballot. Okay, so secrecy is very, very important, highlighted in 2 international standards. And then third one is OSCE standards. So that's not something like articles and all, but they have adapted. This is a European Commission on this security and cooperation. So they have adapted whatever is there in ICCPR 25, but then adapted this article in in an elaborate manner. And if you go through para 10, 11, 20, and 21 of this, so you'll get certain things which are very important on the day of poll, and which I'll just read it for you. States should take measures to guarantee the requirement of secrecy of voting during elections, as emphasized otherwise also, including absentee voting. So those who cannot vote regularly on this, which are touched, where such a system exists. This implies that voters should be protected from any form of coercion or compulsion to disclose how they intended to vote or how they voted. So secrecy to the extent that even after voting, you should not reveal that whom you have voted and how you voted, or you should not be under any kind of pressure to vote in a way which somebody else wants. Okay, and then after voting, this standard also says that whatever has been cast security of that is also very important. It should not now be put into hands where you lose actual voting, what has been done. Another standard is European Commission for Democracy through Law. They have a good code of good practices in electoral matter. It is an elaborate code, and out of this, if you see, the secrecy of votes, which we are talking otherwise generally, has been elaborated by them. So if you see, if you go through these 4 points, which what have been made by this code, the something different from others is that they say that you should be punitive on people who try to kill this the concept of secrecy of vote. So even if a person who is casting vote tries to like open the secrecy of vote, or tries to go against the secrecy of vote, you should penalize him by canceling his vote, his or her vote. So penalties on both sides. So it's not just that we have to enforce secrecy of voting from the extent of EMB's side, but even the voter has to consider, has to ensure that secrecy is not marred. So another international standard is by IDEA only, under which we are doing this all conference material. So they have a legal framework requirement, and chapter 2012 is this. This is a detailed chapter, so I'm not touching on what it is, but it gives you that what laws you should make, how your law should look like to have a very good polling day operation. But it's a long thing. I'm not quoting anything out of it, but that's a very good standard and very good read if somebody wants to know that internationally what is required on the day of poll. So if we talk of now the actual polling days, based on these standards, like all these standards which I've talked of, a minimum benchmark which is required can be stated in this one single statement, that every eligible voter can cast their ballot freely, securely, conveniently, and with the confidence that the vote will be counted fairly and legally. Right. So this is the overall requirement on the day of poll. If you see all these international standards, and then from this, like till the discussion on whatever standards say and everything, we feel that the stakeholder is only the voter, but it's not just the voter who's the stakeholder for us as EMB to be taken care of on the day of poll. We have multiple stakeholders whom we have to consider on the day of poll, and this is probably the possible list. Like we have voters, we have candidates, we have polling staff, we have security forces, observers, party agents, media, administrative setup, everybody is there, and we have to take care of everybody on that day. It's not just the election conduct, even welfare of so many people, because lakhs, like Indians concept, millions of people get involved in this. So the stakeholder number total, if you go take on one particular day, you will have millions of people involved. So their logistics, their welfare, everything, just water, imagine giving water to 10 lakh people, 10 million people across the length and breadth of this country. So managing everything is all part of the EMB's poll day operation preparation. So these are all stakeholders which we have to take care of on the day of poll. And based on what are the requirements of these stakeholders and the international standards and overall requirement, we have tried to work out like what can be the key areas of concern which we can discuss when we talk of poll day operations. And these are the areas, the 7 areas which we find that these are areas of concern related to poll day operations. So I'll just go through one by one these 7 areas quickly and discuss something which is globally expected under these 7 sort of sub-themes for this theme. So if you see legal and regulatory framework, so internationally, what we expect is that equal suffrage has to be enforced, secrecy of ballot has to be enforced, and non-discrimination has to be enforced. And this all should be part of your law. Okay, it should not be left to the EMB to give directions on this, because directions are that not that meaningful. This should be part of your law. So your legal framework should explicitly have these all things which are required internationally explicitly mentioned in your law. So it matters because it prevents arbitrariness. Okay, it prevents interpretation of rules by people who are practicing this electoral management. So it gives uniformity, and everybody will do the same thing which is required by law. If it is stated in law, if it is not stated in law, it will be left to the interpretation of people, and people do same things differently, which is not required, which will not add to the trust in the entire setup. So best practices, if you see, like Indian example only, if we say, so we have a very, very explicit law on elections. We have everything being done through either the constitution, whatever is stated in constitution. We have two Representation of People's Act, 1950 and 1951. Perhaps one of the exceptional subjects on which you have two legislations running parallelly. Not that it is just one single legislation, because the subject electoral cycle I've shown in the previous slide, which is such a vast subject that you have two laws. And then you have a set of rules, and these are not small acts and rules. They are very, very elaborate rules. So if you see the polling day operation rules, if you just read the rule 49 of conduct of election rules, it's a rule which is having some 20-25 sub rules. So everything has been discussed in the law, stated in the law explicitly, so that there is no arbitration. So next area of concern for us, this is as when you frame the law. And then next area of concern, the most important place on the day of poll will be your polling station, the place where we have different nomenclatures across the globe for these places. Normally in this part of the world, we call them polling stations. So if you see polling station, place where voting will happen, so international standards state that polling station must be easily accessible to voters. I need not scratch my head too much to reach where I should vote. So I should have information about that. It should be located in a feasible position, in a neutral position, so that there is no bias. So, and then non-partition venues, like you should not put it at a religious place. You should not put it at a place which is, say, a police station or something where any kind of question can be there. So you should put them in places like schools, colleges, universities, or other government buildings where there is no concept of any kind of pressure coming from any particular site. So secrecy of ballot has to be ensured. So your entire polling station setup has to be maintained in such a manner that the point where actually the vote is casted is not visible to anybody other than the person who's casting the vote. So within polling station, like in India, we have polling compartment, which actually covers the person who's casting vote from all three sides. So it's visible only to him. Then you have this is not done on the day of polling, but it is as part of planning, that your polling station distribution should be in such a manner that everybody reaches there within a minimum standard. Like in India, we have the requirement of 2 kilometers, less than 2 kilometers distance to travel. So procedures should be all uniform as required under the legal side also. So it matters because it ensures inclusivity, because everybody can vote, whoever has got the right, equal access to even who are having any kind of disadvantage, whether it is physical or cultural, social, whatever it is. So if you talk of best practices, like in India, we have assured minimum facilities. So they are 100% required at various polling stations. Like you should have a ramp, you should have electricity, you should have furniture. Okay, so many things which are defined as AMF, specified by commission, they are must at the polling stations, so that the ease of voting on the day of poll is there at the polling station. Similar concept is there in Canada also. They also maintain minimum standards like reasonable distance. Like we said, in our case, it is 2 kilometers. They have a reasonable distance defined there. Ramps are there, signages are there, braille is there, everything is there. So there are minimum standards defined, which we call AMF, and then we extended by the extended minimum facilities also listed by commission. So then we come to the actual voting procedure, that once you have set up a polling station, a polling place where voting happens as per international standards, then the procedure which is to be followed on the day when the actual polling takes place. So on that day, you should give equal access. Then identification of voter is the main job there, which is very critical and very crucial there. So identification mechanism on the day of poll inside the polling booth is one of the critical things, and we must follow standards there, that people who are eligible should not be unnecessarily turned out of the polling station, not allowed to cast votes. So whatever mechanism you follow, whether it is a voter register which you use there, so as per voter register, identification has to be done. So that standard has to be maintained. And then ballot secrecy, of course, has to be maintained as part of the procedure also. And then you should have uniformity in timelines and everything. Like it should not be that in one polling station the time is up to 5 p.m. and in adjoining polling station the time is up to 7 p.m. So this kind of non-uniformity is to be avoided. That's part of the global standards, they say. And then whatever is happening at the polling station, other than the secrecy part of the vote ballot casting process, has to be available for the scrutiny of certain stakeholders, like the polling agents of the candidates. They should be allowed to see what is happening inside polling station. You have observer concept, so observers should be allowed to see what is happening at polling station, but with the caveat that there should be no infringement of the secrecy of vote concept. Okay, so that whatever is happening inside the voting compartment is not available for observation, but outside voting compartment, whatever is there is open and it's available for anybody's its audit and observation. So again, if this all you do, the procedures inside polling station on the day of poll, if they are perfect, then you will be actually building trust in the minds of people who will be visiting you on that day to cast their votes, and entire system of trust and credibility of the entire election process will be maintained. Then if you see best practices, avoiding polling station, the best practices, of course, Estonia, like it allows you the e-voting facility through internet. So that is something which we still don't have. But in India, if you see, again, secrecy part is part of law. Okay, so your law simply says, Rule 49.9 says that the vote has to be casted secretly, and if secrecy is breached, then the same rule says that the vote has to be the ballot or the vote has to be cancelled, right? So that is part of law. Then at the vote, as part of the procedure of polling on the day of poll, there are chances of people voting multiple times, whereas the law says that one vote for one person, equality of vote. So we have the concept of indelible ink being marked, which cannot be removed and which keeps there for minimum time. So you cannot repeat your vote casting at multiple times. So one vote, one person, one vote. You allow, as part of observation part, which is international standard, you allow polling agents of each and every candidate who's contesting election in that constituency. So whatever number of people, even if it is 100 candidates, 100 people are allowed inside the polling station. Every polling station, 100 agents can be allowed to see what is happening. We have proper signages concept. We have help desk at the polling station to help people so that there is no hassle. Then we have, for identification part, we have standardized identification card, which is EPIC card. So we do follow these standards. Brazil has got a very good mechanism of biometric verification at the polling stations. So this is one of the best practice which is existing there. Voting equipment and material part, if you see, so this is again internationally, it's the material voting equipment has to be reliable. So like if you see the voting machines which are used by Estonia, they have some international standards through which they have to pass. So they use that, all standards are used. American counting system, which allows the machines to be used for counting their ballots, which are otherwise physical ballots. They have to pass through certain very stringent mechanisms of international standards to be accepted. So again, it avoids manipulation and helps in avoiding any kind of recounting and all. So best practices are so many. In India, EVMs, we maintain all these things, that these are tested multiple times, 3 times at least, before they are deployed in the actual election. So to show what is like instantaneous check on the EVM machine is that you have a verifiable voter trail, which the voter can immediately see when he casts his vote. So immediate check, every vote is tested by the person who's casting the vote. So inclusiveness is another aspect of polling the operations. So all kinds of inclusiveness, whether it is language access or special arrangements for special needing people, like we have wheelchairs and all for people who cannot walk. So it again ensures that no eligible voter is left out from the voting facility. So best practices also, again, like senior citizens, they cannot come to the polling station. So we allow postal ballots for them, or even the home voting as a referred. and persons with disability, if they want to visit the polling stations, they can use wheelchair and other facilities. They can online apply for that through our apps and all and get it. So again, security and prevention of malpractices is very important. So whatever is happening on the polling station has to happen in a secure manner. So chain of custody is one of the international standards, which is referred many places. So this is not just for the EVMs, but for ballot papers also, where before the casting of ballot and casted ballots, before the casting of uncasted EVMs and the casted EVMs, all has to be kept in secure environment. So if you see, again, best practices, our EVMs are one of the best, most protected thing in the entire election setup. So their GPS, their movement itself is GPS tracked. Their entire life cycle is online, available for everybody's access. So post-voting procedures, like after you've completed the voting, you should not leave your EVM unmanned, or even the documentation part which you do. That all is very important. So that you can have transparent counting and no issues related to transmission and later on audits, which you can refer to. So in this best practices, like United States normally use algorithm-driven risk limiting audit trails to statistically verify what are the results as per the people who have the way the voting has been cast. We don't have such mechanisms here, but we do have a different kind of verifications. Like we do proper documentation at the polling station on closing of the poll, and then maintain certain forms like 17C, which can be cross-checked, which are copies given to the polling agents, and then they can be cross-checked at the day of counting to cross-verify that the voting was right. So polling day operations, these are all the key areas. So like we have different technologies, different ways in this the polling is actually undertaken. If you see, there are 4 broad categories in which the operations on poll day happen. The ballot paper voting is there, EVMs are there, and then postal voting is there, online remote voting can be there. See, these are 4 kind of ways. So each of these aspects which we have discussed, I've just tried to tabulate it and mark out what are the differences in each requirement, like infrastructure type, what will be the difference in these 4 categories, staffing, what will be the difference in these 4 categories, voter identification, how it will differ in under these 4 categories, then secrecy of vote, how it is maintained under these 4 categories, security measures, what all different requirements are there for ballot paper voting, what are different requirements for electronic voting paper voting, and like if you go for e-voting, then cyber security threats are there. So different requirements for different type of voting mechanisms. Then you have transparency, how will you do different ways under these different technologies, accessibility, counting processes, and certain challenges, and each type has got its own different challenge. And logistics post-poll are also different for different technologies. So I'm not going into details of what has been like written here, because time is actually already too late. And then on these all 7 parameters, what we do in India has been summarized here. So if you talk of infrastructure type, so as part of EVM-based polling, we use EVMs and VVPATs, and power requirement for them is our EMF itself. AMF itself has one of the mentions as electricity requirement on the polling stations. We use webcams for security purpose, for administrative purpose only till now. So different things, again, clubbed, what all required as part of EVM poll day requirements from Indian scenario. But then we have certain challenges also in Indian concept, like the challenges on the day of poll, like there can be exigencies related to law and order because of different factors. It can be somebody is denied vote because someone else has impersonated and casted vote on his or her behalf, so he creates a law and order issue. Otherwise, a miscreant comes, he tries to break the EVM or tries to take some documents out of the polling station. So these kind of law and order situations are there, which we have to tackle, and you have to ensure that sufficient backup mechanism is there at each and every polling station across the country to manage such law and order situations coming out. Then weather can be one of the very critical thing. Places are there where a lot of rain happens all of a sudden. Places are there where otherwise you will have people waiting in queue and finding heat stroke coming because of the very high temperature in certain periods in the country. So these all have to be planned for the day of poll. Then there can be technical glitches like EVM going bad, what is the replacement protocol, uniformity has to be maintained, VVPAT not working, whatever. We have all the SOPs. So uniformity is the key there to attend all these exigencies. Even the errors by polling staff are very important. We have cases in which some mistake has been, mistake is done by a polling staff, and then he tries to cover it up by doing another mistake. So these kind of challenges are there on the day of poll, which have to be taken care of, and proper SOPs are to be maintained for that. And then there will always be a dichotomy existing. Multiple dichotomies will be there on the polling day. Like one of them is the delay versus connectivity. This is something which is related to passing of information on the day of poll. Everybody wants that every point of time he or she should have proper update of what is happening across the constituency in which the polling is going on. So you want update of polling data, say. Now, there is the dichotomy is that polling data, you can get real time only if every polling station is real time connected. So once you give connectivity access to every polling station, there is a chance that that connectivity itself will be misused by the polling staff or somebody else. So there is always a challenge between creating channels and then misusing this channel. So this kind of dichotomies are always there. So you have to compromise on probably agreeing with certain amount of delay. Like we say that 2 hours only we'll give you the turnout. Will not reduce that time, because that is the time which we take otherwise. Then secrecy versus access. Okay, like people now are demanding that whatever webcasting you do, you should make it open, but that's not done for them. So these kind of things. So secrecy and access is another dichotomy which is there on the day of poll, and we have to somehow settle on that part. So to conclude, like polling day finally deeply impacts the electoral integrity in a democracy, and whatever challenges we have talked of, we have to keep standards on, but we can always innovate within the ambit of standards and the law. Of course, law is the basic standard for us to ensure that polling day operations are done well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such detailed insights from India's electoral landscape. Now, to broaden our perspective, let's turn to international experience, starting with innovative approaches from Maldives in coordinating voter education and operational planning on polling day. Would like to invite Ms. Shahula Smile to present and move forward.
A very good evening to everyone. Thank you so much, Anil sir, for the detailed presentation. I hope that now, once you listen to my presentation, it will be easy for the audience to check whether we are in accordance with the international best practices or standards. Even though Maldives is a very small nation with only eligible population of 290,000, we are a country with a lot of islands. Each and every island is surrounded by the sea. So when we talk about the logistics of or distribution of polling station related materials and collection of these materials, it is quite challenging for us. So in order to have a perfect voting on the polling day, we need proper preparation to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So in my presentation, I will be talking about the main logistic operations that we take place, which is related to the voting day. So I'll be looking at the pre-voting preparation, voting day operations, starting from the voting, closing of the boxes, and also the counting, and finally the result compilation, and how we conduct or how our dispute resolution or dispute mechanism is inbuilt on the polling day. I'm not going to talk about the Maldives since I have a few minutes to present. I'll be skipping some of the slides. So I'll be starting with the allocation of polling stations. So in our process, before 2 to 3 months of the election day, we will be announcing the polling station details. For instance, we have polling stations established in all the local island cities, even resorts, because a lot of the Maldivians locals live in resorts for work. So we establish polling stations in resorts. Even we have out of country voting, where those who lives abroad can also vote in the physical polling stations. We communicate with the High Commission and we prepare the arrangements to establish polling stations. And also we have polling stations in jails as well as in industrial zones. So on average, 500 to 750 voters will be registered per polling station, excluding resort. In resorts, normally we have 20 to 30 voters, depending on the locals there. And for the accessibility, voters can check their polling station details via SMS, as well as they can check it via our social media and websites. And normally, polling stations are established in public schools, colleges, universities, preschools, and when necessary, sometimes we have to establish the polling stations with temporary tents as well. And next comes the distribution of ballot boxes and voting booths. We have a secret paper ballot system. So as you can see in the picture, some of our staffs are taking all the ballot boxes. They are making it ready to be distributed to the islands. So this process occur before 4 months of the election day. And how we do it is, first we'll be packing those materials and we will be taking the help of Maldives Post, and they will be helping us to securely transport these materials to the local councils, and these ballot boxes and booths will be securely kept in local council, island or city offices. And third is the distribution of ballot papers and materials. These ballot papers and materials will be distributed to the islands or polling stations 3 to 5 days before the election day. For instance, after candidates are finalized, we print ballot papers, we check each and every ballot paper, and it will be packed and made it ready. So for instance, if we have local council election and women development committee election on one day, so it's like 500,000 ballot papers we'll be printing and we'll be checking separately. And normally we take sea transport and air transport to distribute these things, and sea transport will be mainly carried out by Maldives Police Services, and the transfer of ballot papers will always be under supervision of Maldives Police Service. And right before one day of election day, the polling station in charge will be checking all of the materials inside the polling station related material box except the ballot papers, so that before one day we will know if anything is missing. So they will be communicating with the Central Commission and everything will be placed in order. Next come the preparation of polling stations. We do prepare the polling stations one day ahead of election day. Normally, we held elections on public holidays, which is Saturday. So Friday evening, we will be preparing the polling stations, and with the help of polling station in charge, and in the central city, Elections Commission will be taking care of it. And here comes the establishment of coordination center. This coordination center normally receives updates from polling stations in real time. So this is the main point for communicating any issues or urgent information. This coordination center will be stationed in Central City under the supervision of Central Elections Commission. How we organize the operation? So we have like 80 to 100 coordinators, and 8 to polling stations will be assigned to each coordinator. And the communication flow will be like polling station in charge will be communicating with the coordinator will be communicating with the head coordinators, which is basically the senior management team member, and we will have a chief coordinator, and things that will need to be carried to the elections commissioners will be by the chief coordinator. And the information we normally take from the polling stations are the time of the voting start, end time, the counting completion time, and the results will also be carried to the coordination centers, and we will be also attending to the issues from the polling stations. And the technology we use, we have a special application called Voting Progress Reporting Software to gather information from polling stations securely. And how we distribute the polling station related materials on the day of polling. In atolls and cities, the polling station in charge will be going to the council, and he or she will be taking all of the materials in the presence of Maldives Police Service officers 1.5 hours before the starting of the voting. And in the capital city, we have a lot of distribution centers, and polling officials and materials will be deployed from there to the polling stations under the supervision of police service. And right after entering to the polling stations, the polling station officials will be checking if there is any election campaign related materials, because in our law it is prohibited to do any kind of election campaign on the day of polling like other countries. And the polling officials will be getting ready to do their responsibilities. And in our case, we also have observers, candidate representatives, and monitors or reporters inside the polling stations. These people will be accredited prior to the election day. So if they are present, they will be invited inside the polling station at around 7:15, and the polling station in charge will be instructing them on the process. And at around 7:30, ballot paper will be counted in front of them, and they will be announced with the number of ballot papers received for the polling station. And before the start of the polling, the ballot box will be sealed with the help of polling station in charge, and this process will be undertaken in front of 2 common voters. And here is the polling station layout that we have inside the polling station. Number A is the ballot box, number B is the voting booth, D is the voting queue, and 1, 3, 4, 2 are the polling station officials, and 6 is also the queue managing official. Number C is the observers, candidate representatives, and monitors, where they will be staying till the end of the counting and announcement of the results. And normally in Maldives, voting starts at 8 o'clock and it ends at 4 o'clock. Updates are shared by polling station in charge to the coordination center, as I have mentioned before, and hourly voter turnout will be announced inside the polling station. And in the picture, you can see the security envelope that we have for the ballot papers. And here is the voting process. First, when the voter enters, voter checks voters registry outside the polling station, and he can also check the candidate list outside the polling station. And second, voter presents the ID to the queue managing officials, and the official will be checking and verifying the voter information via a special software, and the voter will be issued a queue number. And in this queue number, the voters list number will also be written. The voter will be waiting in the waiting area, and the registry official will be calling to the voter, and again the verification process takes place, and the voters registry will be highlighted once the ballot paper is issued. And also the indelible ink will be put on the finger, and we issue the ballot paper. A specific stamp will also be put on the back of the ballot paper, and the ballot will be casted inside the polling booth and will be put in the ballot box. And the queue closes at 4 o'clock. So once the last voter in the queue has voted, the ballot box will be closed, and the counting will start after the 30 minutes of closing. So the counting process is conducted in the full view of candidates. Candidates can also be present inside the polling station. Observers, monitors, representative, and even the general public can be inside the polling station during the counting process. Each and every ballot will be shown to the public, and the reason for the invalid votes will also be announced inside the polling stations. And if they have any issues, they can also raise concerns inside the polling station to the polling in charge, and they can also lodge complaints to the Central Election Commission via forms as well. And how we do the result? The first results are announced at the station and sent electronically to the coordination center, meaning that right after counting, the preliminary result will be announced in front of the audience, and a sheet of result will also be pasted outside the polling station for public. And after the voting, the material will be packed, and all the material from the islands will be carried to the Central Commission via police again. And these envelopes will be sealed, and security envelope 3, which we have all ballot papers, we cannot open it other than in front of candidates or candidate representatives. So right after the announcement of the preliminary result, here comes the result verification and announcement of permanent results. So we have a separate results center set up inside the under the central commission, with like 50 to 60 staff members are assigned to manage verification and processing of these results. All results uploaded in a special application called election result processor software, and permanent results for each constituency are prepared, reviewed, and officially endorsed by the commission. So these results will be announced and citizens can access results online via a special portal. So these are some of the technologies we use during the election whole process. We have online applications for re-registration, registration, candidate application, polling official observers, candidate reps, and we also have voter location tool, voter verification and tracking results software, our social media, and we also have 1414 hotline, and we have one integrated election management system as well. So about the dispute resolution, who can lodge complaints? Anyone who is 18 years of age can complain about the election process. And if the complaint is escalated, if they can also submit to the National Election Complaints Bureau. This is a bureau where we established right after the announcement of election. And if there is a legal recourse, complaint can also be filed with the High Court for formal judicial review, and even the Prosecutor General has the authority to act on criminal violation related to the election. So that's it about the Maldives. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciating the focus on civic education and operational coordination from the Maldives, we now shift to Indonesia's strategies for building public trust through technical electoral management at various administrative levels. For the same, I would like to invite Mr. Idam Holek for his presentation and to give insights on the polling day operations. Thank you.
Namaste. Good evening, everyone. Distinguished all speaker and moderator and all participants in this room. I'm from Indonesia. I will describe Indonesian experience in managing the polling day operation in 2024 concurrent election. This year marked 80 years of Indonesia as democratic state. During this period, Indonesia has conducted 13 legislative election, 5 rounds of direct presidential election, and 6 rounds of direct regional election. The 2024 election scope and significance. Indonesia applies in one-day voting system in domestic, ensuring quality of voting time and national simultaneity. But for about voting, at overseas voting, we use early voting in 128 Indonesian consulate and embassy throughout country in the world. Indonesia conducted concurrent national election to elect the president and vice president as well as members of the legislature at national and subnational level. In total, 2,614 legislative seats were contested, comprising seats in the House of Representatives or 580 seats, the Regional Representative Council 152 seats, and the regional houses of representative provincial legislative council 2,372 seats, and regency and municipal legislative council 17,510 seats. This election involved to 200,000, 204,000 204,807,222 registered voters, consisting 102 million male voters, or 59.91%, and 102 million 102 million 102 million male female voters, or 50.09 voters. Voting was conducted at 823,000 about 823,000 polling and 22 polling stations, including domestic and overseas polling facility. Furthermore, all polling station is obliged to apply service standard for persons with disability and vulnerable voters. In 2024, we refer as the years of people's sovereignty, reaffirming election as the constitutional foundation of democratic legitimacy in Indonesia. Indonesia places strong emphasis on protecting the voting right of its citizens abroad. In the 2024 election, the number registered overseas voters reached 1,750,474, consisting 999,214 female voters, or 57.03%, and 751,260 male voters, or 42.97%. Voting abroad was facility. Voting abroad was facility through 2,059 overseas polling facility across all Indonesia diplomatic and consular mission, including overseas polling station, mobile ballot boxes, and postal voting mechanism. It is important to note that Indonesia does not allow proxy voting. Voters must cast their ballot personally. Under election law number 7 of 2022, Indonesia citizens living abroad can be registered and eligible to vote in 2020 general election if they meet the following criteria. They are Indonesia citizens who are at least 7 years old and election day, or have been married or previously married. 2, they have not had their voting right legally revoked by a court decision. 3, they reside outside Indonesia, which must be proven with a valid identity document such as electronic ID card, passport, or travel document in place of the passport. 4, if they do not yet have an electronic ID card, they must use their family card to confirm eligibility. 5, they must list in the voter register or a designated overseas voter list to exercise their voting right. These processes were administered by Overseas Election Committee through 128 Indonesian diplomatic and consular mission worldwide, ensuring that Indonesian citizens abroad could fully exercise their constitutional right to vote. From 1955 to 1999, Indonesia used closed-list proportional system for legislative election. Starting in 2004, it shifted to conditional open list proportional system, and since 2009, it has adopted a pure open list proportional system. For presidential election, Indonesia applied to round system conducted through direct election. Indonesia began holding the direct presidential election in 2004. Prior that, the president was elected by the People's Consultative Assembly. The shift to direct election was part of Indonesia democratic reform following the end and new order era. I'm I'm at increasing accountability, legitimacy, and citizen participation in presidential selection process. Just electoral system are designed to balance inclusiveness, representation, and political stability within Indonesia's diverse democratic society. Here are example a ballot paper which used for presidential election, the House of Representatives. This is an example of legislative election ballot in Aceh province near Nicobar Island. And the regional representative ballot. Election administration in Indonesia is built with careful preparation and strict procedural safeguard. Election officials at all levels undergo comprehensive training prior to voting day. Polling stations are established in accessible public location, each serving a maximum of 350 voters in each polling station to ensure orderly and inclusive voting. Indonesia also enforced 3-day silent period. Indonesia also enforces a 3-day silent period before voting day, during which all campaigns activity are prohibited. This policy provide voters with a calm and natural environment to reflect and decide freely. Refers to Article 492 of Law Number 7 of 2017 and Article 509 of Law Number 7 of 2017. Voting day for the 2024 election was held 14 February, commencing simultaneously at 7 a.m. local time across Indonesia 3 time zone. Voting was conducted under strict application of secret ballot principle with special services provided for persons with disability and vulnerable voters. On election day, its election participant may appoint witness at the polling station, while the election supervisory body may assign polling station supervisor. Accredited election observer may also deploy volunteers to monitor the voting and vote accounting process. This picture is a same with Maldives that she described. Vote counting and result recapitulation at all levels, including national level, conducted by General Election Commission, are carried out open and transparency and may observed by public and the media. Vote counting takes place immediately at polling station. After voting conclude and is open to public observation. Results are recorded manually and subsequent digitized draw we call C-Recap or information system of recapitulation. Indonesia's official recapitulation information and made publicly accessible online. Vote recapitulation is conducted in stage from the local to national level and it's complete within 30 calendar days. Legislative seats are allocated using the sign law method, while the presidential election require both the highest national vote and broad geographical support across province. The Regional Representative Council represent provinces, not political party. Its province is allocated 4 seats in the we call DVD, regardless of population size. The top vote getter in each province are awarded the seat. system uses a majority vote, so candidate with highest number of votes win. Indonesia places strong emphasis electoral justice. Election participation may submit dispute the constitutional court and final certification of result is conducted only after or legal process have been concluded. The process takes up 3 months. The table summarizes election dispute petition in 2024. Overall voter turnout in 2024 election exceed 81% both in legislative and presidential election, reflecting a high level public participation and confidence in democratic institution. Distinguished all participants and speakers, Indonesian electoral experience in managing in the 2024 concurrent election demonstrate our continued commitment to democratic integrity, transparency, and inclusiveness. We hope that this experience may contribute meaningfully to our shared effort in strengthening democratic governance across nations. Despite declining a global democracy index, we remain confident that effective election administration and the protection of electoral integrity can sustain and enhance democratic practice. I truly believe. Thank you for your kind attention.
We are already, I think we've crossed the time limit. So I'll request Professor Shyam Narayan sir to kindly enlighten us with this brief overview on whatever he wants to say. And then I'll request the rest of the people who have got, sir is presenting actually without any presentation. So rest of the participants to be quick so that we can find it. So please.
To finish as fast as possible.
No, sir, not for you. I'm talking because PPTs take more time, sir. We'll love to listen more about
the.
I can. You want it to be closed? Yeah.
I was very happy that on a seminar on democracy, the organizer were being very, very democratic in terms of time allotted. And I was hopeful. But see, the problem, this is what is the problem with democracy? You build hope and it doesn't take even a minute to crash. So, but this is the beauty of democracy. And the second thing, I belong to old generation of academics, a generation from a time when instructional tool like PowerPoint or Canva did not exist. And I have lived all through my life relying on chalk, talk, and little bit of imagination. That is how I have survived. So today, when everybody has taken the route of PowerPoint, I find myself taking the old route. So beyond my words, I'm not going to give you the pleasure of having nice visual. So forgive me for that. And I would be talking about something which, to my understanding, has rarely been talked about, and that is the behavioral dimensions of poll day. Because most of the talk, even the write-up which is there in the booklet, they are basically derived from the classical theory of election administration, in the sense that election administration are grounded in national choice and institutional design paradigm. This theory emphasized that the emphasis on rule, safeguard, enforcement mechanism, and transparency measures are something which are indispensable. While indeed they are important, this framework often assumes that institutional legitimacy and the success of the entire election flows automatically from these procedural correctness. Behavioral, my understanding is, if you look at the poll from a behavioral lens, it challenges these assumptions, because whatever little I have read of political psychology, sociology, and particularly behavioral economics, I would argue, and that is what I'm going to highlight, how institutional outcomes are mediated by human conduct, by emotions, heuristics, a stress response, and also by social norms. Election in this perspective, therefore, are not merely rule-bound exercise, but behaviorally contingent event. Voter respond not only to law, but to cue. Official enact authority not only through procedure, but through demeanor, and particularly through the language of silence. Trust emerges not only from outcome, but from experience as well. And my this assumptions and the area that I have chosen up, and I must thank CEO Sanjeev Verma ji. I look at him more as possibly one of the best non-practicing historian I have met in my life, rather than the election CEO, and then Anil Sagotraji, who can put anybody on shame when it comes to articulations. And I think I must congratulate them for bringing academia into the realm of discussion. This, I think, is happening for the first time. And this is what happens if you have enlightened person like them. Thank you, sir. So the and my concern also emerges out of the fact that we are very proud of saying that India is the mother of democracy, all democracy, and we are obviously the largest democracy. If we are the mother of democracy, then why it happens that still in our country there are certain percentage of people, millions and millions, they do not vote at all? And if you look at the statistics, it goes ups and down. People vote in this, they do not vote in the next poll. Why it happens? So my concern is also to people who do not come to vote. And that is something that also needs to be taken up. Now that the chair has decided to be a little authoritative in my case, so I'll try to conform to the rules. There's a policy brief. I argue that behavioral governance should be formally integrated into poll day planning, training, and evaluation framework. Now, drawing on recent electoral experience in Jammu and Kashmir, and also comparative democratic context, I have tried to identify certain key behavioral challenges, and also I am not only trying to cite the problem, I'm also trying to be part of the solution. So, and some I would like to put forward some actionable plan as well. Now, why behavior matters on poll days? Now, I have to talk in terms of PowerPoint. I have points, how powerful they are, you decide. Now, the poll day is often the only direct interaction many citizens have with the state. Voters evaluate democracy not only through outcome, but through their experience as well. Behavior, tone, responsiveness, restraint directly shapes perceptions of fairness, legitimacy, and also create important element of relatedness. Now, in case of Jammu and Kashmir, which has a different kind of political history, memory, and to top it all, a very varied kind of geographical terrain, this this becomes very important, because in such a context, behavioral missteps, however minor they may be, can disproportionately affect the trust and also the relatedness. What are the key behavioral challenges that we face? Now, the first is polling personnel under stress. You have long hour, procedural complexities, and security concerns increases cognitive load. And that increases the risk of excessive procedural rigidity, impatience with the voters, and avoidance of discretionary facilitations. Now, the technology and trust deficit is also that needs to be addressed. We have EVM, VVPAT are procedurally robust but behaviorally mediated. Disorder, confusion, or harsh interaction undermines democratic normalcy. And we must not forget that in our country, the digital divide is still big. And some of the areas, the best of the technology, initial responses of fear. And therefore, when they go to cast vote, they should feel very, very normal and humane in front of machine. So the man-machine relationship, that also needs to be negotiated very well. Now, what would be the policy recommendation? The policy recommendation would be introduce mandatory behavioral component in poll day training, communication under stress, then empathetic voter engagement. Use role play and simulation based exercise, not only lecture, which we do. The rationale is that the procedural knowledge alone does not equip official for high pressure, perception, or sensitive environment. Now, the second thing which I would like to is to develop a behavioral code for poll day conduct. It is already there in place, but the action point, supplement existing code of conduct with a concise behavioral conduct. The charter, that is the behavioral conduct, should cover tone of interaction, body language norms, responsible standards. This display simplified behavioral principle at polling stations for official, because what happens in most of the cases when you go to the polling station, and this has been my experience, we seem to be living on two sides of divide. The people sitting on the other side of the table, the behavior is entirely different. And therefore, you start thinking, should I be staying here? Or I should go back and enjoy this holiday? That is how the feeling comes. Now, the third is we need to recalibrate poll station, including the presence of the security personnel, because a specific behavior advisory for forces should be there, and their emphasis on facilitative presence, avoidance of unnecessary voter interaction. That we have to see, because most of the time when we see the people of the belt force with a cane in their hand, it doesn't create a very good sight. This cane can fall on anybody, and at this stage you would not like this to happen with you. Restrain in movement near polling station, it should be done. Include joint briefing of election and also the security personnel with the member of civil society. The next thing which I would like is to strengthen human mediation of electronic technology. Train polling official as technology communicator, not just operator. Then a standardized, simple explanatory script for EVM, VVPAT queries. Encourage patient engagement with a specific or first-time voter. Because the rationale is trust in technology is produced through human interaction only. If it is not there, best of the technology will not yield you the desired result. Now, if possible, we should also think in terms of redesigning the polling station. Polling station should become a voter-centric space. I was so happy to see the slide being shown earlier, the kind of polling stations they have. And I remember the kind of polling station that we have. Invariably, we choose some school or something where it becomes very difficult to juggle up all the facilities and best of the thing. But when, I mean, we are here in India, we love everything which is there, and that is the beauty of democracy. We need to improve signages, queue management, and help desk. Ensure visible assistance for elderly, women, and person with disabilities. Minimize unnecessary procedural friction at entry point, which happens more often than not. Order and clarity reinforces democratic confidence. Then the introduce behavioral audit post-election. That nobody thinks about. Once the election is over, everything is over. We also should have behavioral audit post-election. And the action plan may include complement turnout and incident report with voter feedback survey, observer reports focused on behavior, qualitative assessment of voter experience. I mean, we can have pilot behavioral audit in sensitive constituency as well. Now, the sum total is that, and now I can see the organizer looking at me, so I'll wind it up in the sense that three kind of action possibly would help us. The one, short-term issue behavioral advisories, modified training content. The midterm would be pilot behavioral audit, revised training manual. And the long term would be that institutionalize behavioral governance as a core pillar of election management. Now, the poll days operation succeeds not only when votes are cast correctly, but when citizens experience the process as fair, calm, and part of it. Now, by formally interrogating behavioral governments into poll day planning and execution, the Election Commission can further strengthen electoral credibility, not only in our state, that is Jammu and Kashmir, but across all sensitive and diverse electoral contexts. Because the message is democracy is not experienced in rule book. It is experienced at the polling station, and that is where, for the first time, a common man experience what democracy is. We need to be very, very careful. The only summation I would make here, that all the points that I am stating are basically based on certain experience. We need to do some pilot study. It will bring out excellent result, and we can use the historical cartography to map out what is the homeostatistics of voter turnout. And in the area which is consistently showing lower voter turnout, start interacting with them, start finding why this is happening. And even if, as Verma just said, even that day in discussion, even if we are able to increase 5 to 10%, that would be a great success, and that would be at least a strengthening 10 more percent to this democratic institutions. And I think it is here, since I am from IIM, I would like to say that can play a greater role if they allow us to do some kind of survey report or some kind of fact-finding project, so that we can come back and tell them, these are the problem, please address that. Only the procedural aspect or looking at the entire poll day from administrative lens is not going to alter this. And we are looking for change, not the continuity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for adding the ounce of academic, managerial, and political aspects to it, even the cultural ones too. We now delve into the science lens on federalism and its implications for polling day challenges in diverse contexts. For the same, I would like to invite Dr. Mool Raj Sharma, Assistant Professor, University of Jammu. Please.
Very good evening, all the dignitaries here. Uh, my topic of this discussion is operationalizing democratic choice, poll day electoral administration as a determinant of electoral integrity. So basically, poll day is democracy day. So that democracy day is a hybrid institutional mechanism in which fundamentally political act, the exercise of electoral choice, is operationalized through formally neutral administrative framework. So although elections are constitutive of democratic sovereignty, their credibility and legitimacy depends critically on the capacity of administrative apparatuses to translate political will uh, into procedurally valid rule-bound outcomes. In this sense, uh, poll day operation represents the point at which democratic politics and public administration most directly converge. So there are uh, scholarly perspective. There are several scholars who have uh, gave certain principles in their work which are important for poll day operations. These scholars like Max Weber, Dwight Weldo, Michael Lipsky, George Fredrickson, and Pippa Norris. So these scholars like Max Weber talk about rational legal bureaucracy as articulated in his work, Economy and Society, underscores the centrality of rule-bound impersonal administration in ensuring predictability, uniformity, and fairness in large-scale democratic processes such as election. Poll day administration reflect this Weberian logic through standardized procedures, codified rules, and hierarchical accountability structure designed to minimize arbitrariness and partisan influence. Dwight Weldo, in the administrative state, argues that public administration is inherently value laden and cannot be separated from normative commitments. This insight is particularly relevant to electoral administration, where administrative actions directly intersect with democratic principles. So, poll day operation exemplifies this connection as a routine procedural decision, such as voter verification or queue management, shape citizens' immediate experience of electoral process and thereby influence perception of fairness, inclusion, and democratic legitimacy. From this perspective, poll day administration must be understood not only as technical execution, but a form of democratic governance in practice. Electoral officials are expected to administer without political preferences, yet they operate within context of uncertainty, time pressure, and social diversity, where strict rule following often requires interpretation and judgments. Likewise, another important scholar, Michael Lipsky's theory of street level bureaucracy, which is very important, is particularly it shows how frontline public officials who interact directly with citizens and exercise discretion under conditions of resource constraint effectively become policymakers in practice. So, polling officials, often temporary functionaries, closely resemble street level bureaucrats whose discretionary micro decisions shape public policy outcomes at point of citizen state interaction. On poll day, such discretion manifests in interpreting electoral rules, managing elderly, differently abled, or illiterate voters, and balancing procedural rigidity with practical accommodation. Consequently, electoral integrity on poll day is co-produced by street level bureaucrats operating under constraint discretion rather than being granted solely by formal rules. Uh, Another prominent personality on this, George Fredrickson, conceptualizes social equity as a core normative value within new public administration, positioning fairness and justice alongside efficiency in administrative practice. In this context, electoral administration, this normative commitment can be operationalized through accessible polling station and inclusive procedures for marginalized voters. Within this broader literature on political processes, Pippa Norris' work, Why Electoral Integrity Matters, 2014, and Why Election Fail, 2015, on electoral integrity provides a critical analytical framework. Norris conceptualizes elections as a process rather than a single day event, and identifies polling day and vote counting as a most integrity sensitive stage of electoral cycle. Integrity failure at the polling station, she argues, disproportionately undermine democratic trust and loser consent, thereby weakening democratic legitimacy. She examines why elections are undermined by recurring flaws and failures, engaging with structural, international, and institutional explanation of electoral breakdown, while societal constraint and international norm enforcement mechanisms such as election monitoring and external pressure offer partial explanation. The study foregrounds institutional design as the most effective locus of the reform. Uh, Basically, she argues that durable electoral integrity depends on domestic, constitutional, legal, and regulatory arrangements grounded in principles of consensus and power sharing. Central to this framework are rules that prevent the manipulation of electoral processes by incumbent alongside adequately resourced and capable electoral authorities. Uh, Taken together, these frameworks suggest that poll day operations function as living laboratory of administrative theory. They reveal the simultaneous relevance of rational legal bureaucracy, normative ethics, discretionary governance, and institutional design in sustaining democratic legitimacy. Poll day is not merely a culmination of electoral processes, it is the moment at which democracy is most concretely encountered by citizens and most accurately dependent on quality of administration. Poll day operation represents the procedural heart of electoral integrity, where democratic values are translated into administrative actions. So, democratic values like equality, fairness, transparency, inclusivity, whereas administrative actions are setting up accessible polling station for people with disabilities, verifying voters systematically, managing queues efficiently, and training polling officials to act impartially. Human dimensions of elections, how poll workers shape public confidence in elections. So, drawing on the human centric perspective advanced by Hall, Manson, and Patterson, poll workers engage as pivotal in shaping electoral legitimacy, their social conduct, administrative competence, and perceived impartiality directly influence voters' trust in electoral processes, demonstrating that electoral integrity is experienced not only through rule and institutions, but through face-to-face interaction at the polling place. Thus, public confidence in elections is shaped less by formal rules than how those rules are enacted by poll workers on polling day. Even procedurally sound electoral system can lose legitimacy if administrative conduct if administrative conduct at the polling station appears arbitrary, exclusionary, or insensitive. When polling workers act impartially and competently, they institutionalize electoral integrity in practice, thereby strengthening trust in democratic institutions. So, role of poll workers and poll watchers during this day. Poll workers, basically the street level bureaucrats with formal authority to implement electoral rules, and their discretionary action directly shape voters' perception of fairness and administrative competence. Poll watchers, by contrast, usually represent political parties at polling station and are trained in electoral procedure prior to polling day. Public interaction with polling, with street level bureaucracy, just guiding first time voters, resolving confusion over procedures, and providing accessible support for differently abled voters. Polling workers exercise discretion in applying rules which shape voters' experience and perception of fairness. Poll workers ensure timely opening of polling stations, smooth queuing, and timely closure of polling stations. Real-time decisions in response to power failure, machine malfunction, or voter dispute has direct implication for electoral integrity. Some suggestions. There are some suggestions. Online verification of voter ID and booth allocation to minimize on-site paperwork delay. Second, electronic voting machines, portable ballot boxes with GPS lock and tracking system. And last one is each voter's biometric fingerprint, iris, and facial scan is captured once at the polling station, logged as used for that election, and linked to EVMs or ballot scanner to prevent multiple voting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call now the last speaker, Mrinali, and I'll request her to straight away go to the two case studies which you want to just reflect on them. And
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. Respected dais and delegates from different parts of the India, different states and different parts of the country. It's my honor and privilege to be part of this panel discussion. And it's to be present here at IICDEM here at New Delhi. I begin my presentation with the famous quote of Abraham Lincoln's speech, which delivered at Bloomington on May 29th, 1856, that the ballot is stronger than the bullet. That itself signifies the importance of polling day operations and casting a ballot, casting a vote. And here, polling day operations are important for the ensuring free and fair elections, and as it shapes public trust and acceptance of results, ensures voter secrecy, and it is markable in strengthening the electoral integrity and enhances democratic participation. Already sir has covered and different speakers have covered most of the points. I will go directly to some of the points which are not covered. The global trends now are technical enable voting, inclusive access, data analytics, and safety protocols, in which I think the predictive logistics is very important in advanced data analytics used to optimize resources. Challenges faced by different EMBs will cover technology, mobility of scale, then misinformation and disinformation. This is new thing for EMBs and a future challenge for every EMB. Rise of AI and deepfakes, fake candidates, and manipulate perceptions seen in some countries in 2024 elections like Bangladesh, UK, Indonesia, and Pakistan. Climate risks are always there. Voter apathy, this is a emerging problem since last some years, and urban voter apathy is the main one. The main challenge that I want to highlight is grievance redressal, which we faced in different elections, that sudden mass gatherings after polling day over, or facility issues or electoral violences. I think the basic root of these operations behind is there is some missing step in pre-poll operations, or there may be some ignorance of event or major religious sentiments from civilians and from electoral machinery that has root in the poll day. Poll day operations are not only incidences happen on poll day, are not only the pre-poll day incidences, but in my opinion and in my belief, it is root for 4 to 5 years. There were some incidences in past elections in different states of boycotting elections due to there was not cremation ground. There was no scheme given to the some village, and different routes are there. Electoral machinery has to address these different routes before being poll has been held, and need to clarify these issues and solve these issues before poll day, for peaceful poll days. Then I have to quote one example from Maharashtra during Assembly elections 29. ECI also published case study of this in Baramati constituency of Pune districts, which was badly affected by rains. In October, rains are not a usual feature in Maharashtra, but sudden rains before poll day, after poll day, and on poll day, and the polling station and the village was affected by floods, and voters itself, they came out in large numbers to vote, and voters in Kamleshwar village, with the help of local administration, joined tractor trolleys and made a 50-feet long bridge. And this is an example of how voter apathy is not there, and voters, they created a history being that doing civic duty and voting. Now, best practices, I will not go in details, but these are recent ones in India in 2025 by-elections of Gujarat, Kerala, Punjab, and West Bengal, and later extended to Bihar also. A mobile depositing facility, real-time voter turnout reporting through ECINet by the presiding officer, and 100% webcasting at polling station. These marks the one step ahead of India for improving transparency, voter convenience, and election management efficiency. Now, I will highlight some global best practices. Compulsory voting in Australia. Australia being the maintain high level participation throughout its federal elections. Australian Electoral Commission made it compulsory, and 19 countries enforced it, including Australia. I have taken only one example of Australia. The turnout rate for the federal elections in 2025 is approximately 90%. And this is very best example that how voter turnout can be increased in different countries having challenges in high voter turnout. And there is also penalty for not voting, and you have to give reason for not voting. Then sir already covered the example of Estonia, so I will skip that. But one thing that is internet voting of Estonia, that 100% services of Estonia are digital, and that is Estonia set an example in the world. And voter identity is removed before it reaches to National Electoral Commission for counting, ensuring anonymity. That is the best practice, that what I think. And Accessible Elections Canada. Accessible Canada Act came into existence in 2019, and there are two accessible plans 2022 and 2025. The major features of these are community relations officers for accessibility, voter information in accessible formats, polling place accessibility, advisory groups for disability issues. These services are pre-poll activities also, and polling day activities also. Then key learnings. I think training, technology, early effective planning, these all are common, but I think that the communication is key for high voter turnout, maintaining high voter turnout. We faced the major challenges that voter awareness programs are very well planned, but I think you are going to attract someone who is not totally interested in you. And I think that is a difficult challenge for electoral machinery also, and from voter side also. Then we are in the era of technology, and there are some challenges of cyber security also, and we have to deal with social media challenges and cyber security challenges also. Recommendations are strengthening voter awareness campaigns. As I already said, how can we make voter awareness campaigns more effective? Then real-time reporting tools also can be strengthened. Then post-election activities are also important for next next elections. You can take review and audits are done so that you can improve future elections in better sense. Then local challenges are to be dealt with tailor-made solutions, and inclusion of community stakeholders in planning. There is one principle in leadership, that is DAC, direction, alignment, and commitment. If any one of this is missing, then you are going to lose the battle. That is my belief, and that is my opinion, that every stakeholder, including BLO, should be taken into confidence, and proper direction, alignment, and commitment should be taken from this. The last slide. The polling day operations are backbone of fair elections and are important for credible elections. and effective polling day management ensures trust, accuracy in result, democratic participation. Now we are in the era of technology, and we have to make such innovations by blending traditions with technology, and this is to make polling day more inclusive and fair. Last slide but not the least, the Election Commission of India's favorite quote, no voter to be left behind. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir. Thank you, EC and IIIDEM. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manali. Now we are open for any questions if somebody has got from the audience. So thank you very much. Yeah, so another task for Professor Shamnarayan is this: is that how to ensure that even after extending making the time of session double, still people ask questions. So anyway, it was a very enlightening session, especially the another horizontal dimension to the election administrators. What Professor Shamnarayan gave, that behavioral part from both the sides, not just the voters, but even the polling staff and all, has to be one of the part of our planning, administration, everything. And then nice presentations from two countries, one by Shahula, giving details of how Maldives attends to their polling day operations, and then Indonesian entire overview of election process by the Honorable Commissioner of Election Commissioner of Indonesia, and of course the academic perspective given by Professor Dr. Moolraj Sharma, and a nice, very strong wind up by Minali. We are really enlightened, and we thank you all, of course, on the DICE side, those who spoke, and all those who kept on with the patience and being here till 6 p.m. with us. Thank you very much.